Actual weird inexplicable things that have happened to you. Like real stuff too, you guys, come on. Went hiking once alone. Heard a growl about 400 feet away. Was oddly drawn to it. Pulled myself away from it and ran back to my car. I never thought much of it, but then I heard some passengers in my Uber and they were talking about some podcast that they heard where a few marathon runners were going for a run alongside some mountain when one of them decided to run ahead of them, and when they caught up to him he was nude and walking towards a tree, with his clothes neatly folded on top of a rock. His friends were able to yell at him, which apparently got him out of his trance, and after he clothed back up and they all got out of there, he said that the last thing he remembers before entering that trance was the sound of a growl nearby that felt comforting. That scared the crap out of me, and I asked them what podcast it was, but then we got to their destination and they just hopped out. Damn.
Okay, let me go. I don't want your logic bullshit, okay? B20. Live at home with mama and sister. Lightning storm. Very cool.jpg. Watch for 10 minutes with bolts coming down every 30 seconds, 1 minute. Sister comes into my room to watch the lightning with me. We decide to go look at it from the backyard. Stood at the door seeing and hearing it on a frequent basis. For a split second all we see is white. Blinding white. We scream a lil. Keck. We don't understand what just happened. I've seen videos of lightning striking super close and I know it to be loud and very dangerous. I don't understand what it was because there was no thunder following the flash. Me and my sister joke that whatever was causing this rare occasion, where I live, pointed at us as if to say, WTF are you looking at?
I was once within 30 yards of a lightning strike. It hit a lamppost near me. Fairly loud crack, nothing terrifying, about as loud as a shotgun being fired 10 feet away. No particularly bright flash, but it was the middle of the day, one of those sudden summer thunderstorms. Not at all like you described, but this was just vanilla, common or garden fork lightning. I know there's a lot of weird other types, but I know little about them. Might have been one of those you saw. As for explosions being silent when you're close, can confirm. Be me, CanaChan at work. Fire up oxyacetylene torch to attack seized bolt. Torch goes out. Think gas is running low, approach bottles to check regulators. Everything goes orange for a split second. Eyes hurt immediately. Weird loud deep-pitched wah-wah type noise from other side of workshop. Sounded like someone flexing a sheet of metal, only deeper and amp, louder. Face starts hurting. Become aware of loud hissing noise. Acetylene hose isn't there anymore. Turns out our acetylene hose had pinholes, allowing air into it. The torch didn't go out, the flame front just retreated back down the hose, and all the gas in the 25-meter hose exploded in my face. Everyone else in the building heard an almighty boom, but all I heard was the echo of it coming back. Never heard the kaboom.
Had something not quite the same, but similar happen. I was in the hall upstairs when lightning struck my neighbor's roof. I heard it, but it wasn't as loud as I thought it would be. I thought it had struck the next street over. The only thing separating me from the lightning was a few feet of height and about 20 feet of yard living room. Shit fried my gateway and my router.
Well, I saw 2 UFOs recently, I guess. It wasn't super amazing, they were just lights, but it was enough, if you know what I mean. I just looked up and thought there was a star, but it did a sort of spiral pattern and moved behind a cloud. And about 0.1 s after that a second one flew behind the same cloud, making an upward curve. I suppose the path of the second could be explained as a shooting star. But not the first. And they couldn't have been fireflies, because they went behind a cloud, so it was far away. I think the pattern, and how fast they must have been going, also rules out drones. It was nice to finally see something like that in real life instead of on shitty low-res videos where you can't tell if it's just a reflection in a window or something.
Saw something very similar twice in my life. Once far away, high in the sky, like you describe. Second time way too fucking close. Whatever they are, they're intelligent and can hear our minds the way we can hear voices. If you can see them, they know what you're thinking.
Probably not very interesting, but today, 5 a.m. Just grabbed PJs from the dryer, time to go to bed. Walking towards bedroom, through kitchen, eyes slightly downcast. Other side of the kitchen I see something tall and black. Panic, first reaction is to think someone, home invader, is in the kitchen with me, I live alone. Look up, try to actually look at it, but there's nothing there. When I am sleep deprived, I will often mistake hung up coats, bags on chairs, etc. for human figures, but this time it was in the middle of an empty hallway. Probably just extreme sleep deprivation though.
I know, it often takes wild states of mind to see them. Don't worry, just don't talk about them.
Don't relax, Anon.
Sure, tons of things. Here's two. The first one are vivid memories of being in the back seat of the family car with my sister. I was around 6. Because my sister was still in a car seat, and she is a couple of years younger than me. My dad would often drive to the auto shop and leave us in the car while he went in. Every time this happened, I'd fall asleep but wake up when the car started. Except there was no one in the front seat. It was like the car was driving itself and I would be overcome with this weird primal fear. This would happen so often I started to get anxious and scared about getting in the car. It finally stopped when I decided that I was gonna look in the front seat while this was happening. I looked and it was exactly what I thought it was. The steering wheel and pedals were being turned and pushed but no one was there, like an invisible person. I remember pretending to fall back asleep and then passing out because this was so scary to me. I'm still not sure if this was a series of dreams, it felt so real and like I said happened a lot. Maybe a weird trauma thing where I blocked out the person? My dad never seemed to notice that we would be gone. The second story is the only time I saw a shadow person. My sister would see them all the time but I never saw them like she did. It was monsoon season Tucson, Arizona, so it was thundering pretty bad. I think I was around 11, still pretty scared of the noise. Late at night, maybe midnight, or 1 in the morning. A huge thunder crack went off and I jumped out of bed and ran downstairs to jump in my mom's bed. I saw my sister run down there but she looked funny. I saw just her upper body, all shadow, like seeing a physical person in the dark. And it looked like she was levitating, running really fast down the stairs. Like if you stopped a movie frame of someone running and just moved the person stuck mid-pose. I figured the light was being weird from the lightning and jumped in bed with my mom. Then about 5 minutes later my sister jumps in bed with is. WTF?
I'm not sure exactly how old I was when this happened, but it would be between 3 and 7 years old. I remember being in the garage with my dad near me on the driveway. I think I was pacing around waiting for my dad to do something. While this was happening, I pictured these colorful balls in my mind, some getting smaller, and others getting bigger, all randomly arranged in a black void. And when I say pictured, I don't mean that this was on purpose, it was like my brain was being forced to imagine it. At the same time, I heard these whispers in my mind. There were multiple voices and they weren't saying anything understandable, but they were human voices. It was like an attack on my senses. I tried clearing my mind of these, but that would not work. I'm not sure how long it lasted for, but while it was happening I was worried, even though, at the time, I never told anyone about it. I asked about it on Reddit, Someone said that it could have been some sort of gas poisoning, given that I was in a garage.
I have a similar fever dream to the growing and shrinking ball images. I am desperately trying to equalize their sizes, and adding to one is taking away from the others. But for the real odd part is the voices. It sounds like a room full of people all whispering at the same time. I have heard these all of my life, and as a child the sounds were so loud at times it was like being in a ballroom full of people.
Kinda reminds me of this.
Alice in Wonderland syndrome, AIWS, also known as Todd syndrome or dysmetrosia, is a neuropsychological condition that causes a distortion of perception. People may experience distortions in visual perception of objects, such as appearing smaller, micropsia, or larger, macropsia, or appearing to be closer, palopsia, or farther, teleopsia, away than they actually are. Distortion may also occur for senses other than vision. The cause of Alice in Wonderland syndrome is currently unknown, but it has often been associated with migraines, head trauma, or viral encephalitis caused by Epstein-Barr virus infection. It is also theorized that it can be caused by abnormal amounts of electrical activity, resulting in abnormal blood flow in those parts of the brain which process visual perception and texture. Although there are cases of Alice in Wonderland syndrome in both adolescents and adults, it is most commonly seen in children.
I used to get it really bad when I was like 6 to 10, on top of sleepwalking and sleep talking. Only happened when I was in an unfamiliar place.
Once had supposed members of the O9A try and hex me. Be me. Piss off Wignat non-straight online. He and his friends get together and claim they will quote, curse me, and dox me and my family. Later that evening I feel my room get cold. Feels like someone is watching me. I say a quick prayer, then go to sleep. Have a dream about a group of men following me around in the street. They're regular white dudes, probably in their 20s, and they all look emo for some reason. They keep following me, and at one point they surround me. No one touches me, but I feel a sensation in my lower region. A sort of spiritual sodomy, if you will. I feel this energy and manage to break free. Get the idea to start praying in Latin, as I read somewhere that doing so pisses off the devil. Dudes immediately start seething and frothing, however they back off and maintain a distance. Go into a hotel for refuge. The guys follow me inside the building. A priestess walks up to me, black woman, and suggests I stop praying in Latin. I ignore her and find a room. The other guys are just outside the door, but they do not enter. I wake up from the dream. Funniest detail is that all those piles of sticks got permabanned a week later, and their server got nuked.
I've written this whole thing twice before and nobody gave a fuck. I think I was 9 or 10 at the time. I'm laying in bed, dog's on the bed next to me, Toby. He just sleeps there. It suddenly feels like someone's stepping up onto the bed. Fucking nobody's there. So obviously I'm paralyzed now while something invisible is stepping over me. I see Toby look around, he's giving a low growl. Then the fucking pull-down shade on the window my bed is against starts shaking just like someone's grabbing it, immediately followed by a kid's voice that said,
Dad, I want one.
Toby goes nuts. I book it out of my room, fucking inconsolable. My parents were trying to calm me down and get me to shut up about it because I was scaring the fuck out of my little sister.
The digits, they believe you. I will believe you.
This freaked me out even before I saw your digits. Very spooky shit.
16 years old. Got permission to go to a friend's cabin for a week for hunting and fishing. It's just 3 15-year-old kids and no parents. We are all drinking and making noise. The whole day we make noise and have fun. At night we start telling each other horror stories, preferably real ones. Owner of the cabin liked to tell shitty stories and my other friend who was more serious liked to listen. After we are all really drunk about to pass out, serious friend looks at us with his usual serious look. He asks us,
If I tell you a real ghost story that happened to me and my grandma, will you believe me?
We both nod. Obviously the serious friend never tells us bullshit. He starts talking about this lady in the woods who is all dressed in white and has a shining white dress. We both get shivers because it all sounds like it could have happened. We pass out a bit later and nothing really happened until next summer when we did the same trip again. I'm almost blackout drunk this time. There is more people with us at the cabin. I'm pissing at the woodline and it's pitch black. I start thinking about the woman in white for some reason. I get scared and start scanning the woodline. I freeze. I can literally see the white woman just standing about 30 meters from me. I can't make out a face, just the white shining dress. I just stare at her, afraid to move or look away. She stays there for a good 4 seconds and vanishes when I blink or look away for a bit. I tell my serious friend about this and he gets mad and doesn't believe me. He quickly brushes it off, says never talk about her again and continues drinking. I never saw her again and never talked about it.
Mind you, this happened around 2009 or so. I remember I was playing some game on my Nintendo DS and eventually I got bored of it, so I decided to switch the current cartridge for another one. The cartridge that was now ejected uncautiously fell behind the couch I was sitting on. I tried to look behind the couch, around the floor and even inside the couch itself. I never found that game again. Even when I moved in 2014, and once again in 2019, that cartridge never came out. To this very day that game is considered as lost and gone for good. Weirdly enough, I also didn't hear any noise when the game card fell 13 years ago. The hell happened?
That exact same thing happened to me with a Luftwaffe watch my grandfather gave me that I put into my safe, and then months later when I went to go get it so I could show it to a friend, it wasn't there. Cash, jewelry, other collectible watches including a Rolex worth over $80,000 were still there, but the Luftwaffe watch was gone. It rattles my brain to this day because no one else knew the combination to that safe, and it was actually a safe inside of another safe. I've told that story to a few other people and some have claimed that the same thing has happened to them with period coins and other Third Reich memorabilia, including pictures.
Be me. Decade or two ago at this point. Living alone in old apartment. Had some generic Akai VCR. Watching Simpsons recordings. Knocked the remote off the couch arm. I hear it clatter on the floor, but I look down and it's not there. I look under the couch, nope, she ain't here neither. Physically rearrange furniture to find it. This was a big open room with like, a couch, a TV table, and the TV plus VCR itself, was poor as shit back then. Didn't have much. TV remote is gone for good. Guess I'll go down to Kmart and pick up one of those shitty overpriced universal remotes and hope it works. Fast forward to about a year or so ago. COVID keeping me home from work, so I decide to clean the house up a bit. Find box of old clothes I never bothered to sort for the thrift store. Sort through them. Something's in the pocket of a pair of jeans. It was an Akai brand VCR remote. I've worn those jeans at least once a week since 2005. I'd have known if there was a chunky piece of plastic in the pocket. Cannot explain it to this day. Did my remote fall through some kind of mini time warp directly 15 years into the future? LOL.
Stuff mostly from early childhood. May have been overactive imagination, but I doubt it. Maybe just dreams and coincidence. Don't think I've posted about it before. 1. Playing around in my room, on my own. Other people are there, just in different parts of my home. Looking at the window, it's middle of a sunny day. Suddenly, the brightness intensifies, at the same time everything gets rather quiet. I see a bright humanoid figure. I don't recall details, but it seemed feminine. It's talking to me, but now for the life of me I cannot recall what it was saying. It's possible I simply couldn't understand and so didn't memorize. I turn away and I think it wanted me to stay and listen more, but I just walked to the door, and when I looked back I've seen nothing. No, there was no fear, it was as if such considerations would be turned off. 2. Had a grandma I visited a couple of times. She was already rather old and frail, not really leaving her room, taken care of by my aunt, uncle, and their kids. Once when I was with her there, I must have fallen asleep. But what I remember from a dream was her bringing me to some calm place outside. Seemed like she wanted to present me to some old, stern, but somehow also healthy, full of vigor, straight posture guy. He was asking me some questions and telling me things, but again, I couldn't answer or understand. I think that made my grandma disappointed. I woke up, or at least I recall being back in her room. She looked at me sadly and told me to leave her for a bit on her own. Ain't, in for you failed at some mystical thing. Maybe. No idea. Yeah, the memory's spotty, but it was early childhood, decades ago, and my memory's kinda autism level in general. Broad but not deep. I remember some things many people struggle with, events from infancy I had confirmed but which at that age I shouldn't be able to remember. I know the moment when one falls asleep and wakes up and how it feels. Got some other minor events, too.
When I was a teenager I lived in backwoods Appalachian mountains. I've seen and heard enough there to be convinced there is plenty beyond our grasp. Heard voices, that were very close by the river at night when nobody was around. One time in an old abandoned barn I found a black bird, crow probably, that was freshly squashed to death. It looked like it had been pancaked. It was in the middle of the dirt floor of that barn and the blood and moisture was still fresh. There were no working roads leading to that barn, the only road was obscured by fallen trees, rocks, and you had to walk miles to get to this place. There were no other signs of anything. I still haven't found a comfortable explanation, even a paranormal one.
I have a reoccurring series of dreams that started shortly after high school where I'm in a fictional setting back in my high school days and I have a girlfriend named Lisa, who I never had in high school. I didn't even know Elisa. In these dreams at first she's asking me for a pink Corvette which I promise I'm going to get her one day when I have enough money. Years go by and every once in a while I'll have a dream with Lisa in it, and she doesn't always bring up the Corvette. Sometimes I do and she gets really happy when I tell her it'll be any day now. This has been going on for the past 20 years on almost a weekly basis. Well, a few years back I found a PDF of my old high school senior yearbook online and I was sifting through the pages when to my absolute horror I see the girl from my dreams in the freshman section. And her name was /is Lisa Martinez. I was a loner in high school. I have never met this girl, and the way my high school was organized, upperclassmen weren't allowed to hang out with underclassmen. They couldn't have classes together and they couldn't fraternize during or after school. It was a very strict old-fashioned school. Even the layout of the school was zoned so every age group and gender could only hang out in those designated areas. And it was very strictly enforced, like there was no way I could have met this girl even in passing. I have tried everything to find her on social media, but I've never even gotten close. I've even spent days looking up every single person from that high school on Facebook/Instagram and then try and see if she's in their friends list or comments, and I never find anything. This is her, the only picture I have. And keep in mind that I have only had this picture for about 4 years but have been having consistent dreams about her for the past 20 years, with 16 of them being before I even found this picture.
Wow.
Yeah, and I know it sounds like creepypasta, but I swear to you all that it's real, and fuck it, maybe it's a really strange coincidence. But the fact that I wasn't actively searching for her, and until I saw her picture I simply believed those dreams and her herself were just some odd quirk dream I was having based on nothing in particular makes this the greatest blunder of my life. I think about it all the time and every day. Whenever I have dreams with her in it, they are vivid to BTW, like real life. I'm frozen for the rest of that day. And in the yearbook I saw her picture first, which scared me enough, but it wasn't until I saw that her fucking name was Elizabeth that I felt a fear I've never felt in my entire life. I'm completely alone in this shit too, because I tell people and they don't get it. There's no rational explanation for this. WTF is going on? Oh yeah, and one other thing that stands out in my dreams is that every once in a while she'll show me a picture of the car she wants. And throughout the years the models change and even her source materials modernize. Like in the beginning they were magazine cutouts, and then computers, and finally it's either her phone or a tablet. I know nothing about cars, and just based on those dreams I can Google it and find precisely the car she's showing me in her dreams.
Several weeks ago, get home from work. Live with family, pull into garage around 11:40 p.m. on a Saturday night. Mom does laundry in morning, so I bring down my dirty basket. Walking into the laundry room, it's dead silent. All of the sudden, hear the resounding gong of a singing bowl being struck. No one owns one in my house. I was on the opposite side where everyone was. Everyone but me and my dog were asleep. It was right next to my ear. Not sure what to make of it, wasn't scared. Few weeks later. Sleeping late, nobody's home, dog has to go outside to piss. Bring her down from the second floor. Take her outside. She comes back in. I go back upstairs and try to fall back asleep. All of the sudden, dog acts like someone is coming home. She rushes downstairs and barks a lot. Hear a woman say my dog's name in a calming way. Dog stops barking. Thought it was my mom, but I wasn't sure, still went to sleep. Woke up, called my mom. She was at work all day. Nobody else was home when I heard that. Last night. Pulling into garage from work. Notice shed has lights on inside and the door is wide open. Think someone is stealing shit. Close the gate so they can't escape. Approach with my pistol. Nobody's inside or around the shed. I do not want to enter the shed. I close the door, lights turn off by themselves for some reason. Feel weird. Go back inside, experience nothing out of the ordinary for the rest of the night. Just a couple of weird things that were recent. Used to have more weird shit all the time.
Living on meat-light life for some time. Usually sleep until 12 a.m. On this day I woke up early, around 6 or 7 a.m. Got up, did some shit and then went back to my room. Later I would have to receive some Amazon package, so I just laid down on my bed with the door and windows open. Knowing I could easily wake up by the sound of the doorbell, I decided to take a nap. Laying down with my belly up, usually I only fall asleep with my belly down, I close my eyes. Wake up. Feel the instant feeling of dread. Literally woke up, triggering my fight or flight response. Almost fall asleep again the moment I close my eyes to blink. Same response again. At this moment I really felt like there was something else there, but I couldn't see anything. Heartbeat going like crazy, but the feelings start to fade. Quickly leave bed once I was sure nothing would jump on me. I think inexplicable would be too much to describe this situation, but it was really weird. Worse is that I had sleep paralysis sometimes before, and this was quite different. It felt like if I had woken up just before some entity started to fuck with me instead of during the process.
I used to have something sort of similar happen to me a lot when I was a teenager between the years of 13 to 17 years old. Bad depression, terrible sleep patterns. Would always stay up all night and sleep during the day, especially during the summer months. Make it a routine to fall asleep around noon through 4 to 5 p.m. One day, when I was trying to go to close my eyes and go to sleep, I kept feeling something in my room. It would feel like an intense presence was slowly getting closer and closer to me, to the point where I would have to physically open my eyes and get up every time in order to ward off the feeling. Would happen repeatedly multiple times during the week. If I let the feeling keep going, it would literally feel like something was floating above me, mirrored with my entire body length. A slight heat was felt, and my head would feel overwhelmed with sensations I couldn't explain. Eventually just stopped, and I haven't had them since. I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the SSRIs I was prescribed at the time though.
Called to live in Hawaii. Meet more friendly people than ever before at first. Pray for a mutually beneficial work trade one day. Meet and get invited to live with a popular musician that night. Offers a place to live and some money in exchange for help building a temple. Work for a while meeting some strange characters along the way at various party scenes. It's almost a dream come true. Eventually get around to asking to be paid for my hours worked. Suddenly changes his tune, pretends like we never agreed to that. I remind him of our agreement, he acknowledges it, then argues that I don't deserve payment after building an entire foundation because he let me camp. I decide to cut my losses and walk away from this swindling clown. Not long after, while driving to the beach, pick up a hitchhiking crone. We exchange stories. When I name the guy that robbed me, she gasps.
I knew him since back in the day. He's part of the gang that raped and murdered all 3 of my daughters.
She tells me in detail how they operate, that all the big destinations are fronts for traffickers. I am floored, all the weird interactions I'd witnessed before just clicked. It all made sense now why these people and scenes had such unnatural, creepy vibes.
They've tried to kill me many times for warning others, but I persist.
She directs me to a secret wild avocado grove. We gather 3 bagfuls, then I take her home. It's a hovel not far from one of these wicked compounds. While dropping her off, one of their stooges drives up to question me, completely stonewalls her like she's a ghost after being greeted, then speeds off.
He's the one that's tried to run me over. They're all sick. I've heard screams of bloody murder coming from over there late at night.
Decide I have to investigate this place in the morning. The grounds are beautiful and expansive. They're hosting a potluck this day and invited all their neighbors. Host concludes meal with an unprompted apology to everyone for any unspecified quote loud noises or disturbances late at night, and that quote, "We're committed to making sure these problems do not happen again in the future." No one seems to have anything to add to this in a room of nearly 20. Having seen and heard enough, I decided it was time to leave this place while I still could. Go back to the musician's place to pick up some items I'd stored. He's around, I tell him why I've come. Seemingly without any context, he goes,
I'm glad you trust me enough to have come here. You must believe I'm not crazy or dangerous.
Smile and nod with a mutual death stare. On my way out, an owl, a symbol of protection, swoops over me. Pack up and say good riddance to this accursed isle. Escaped with my life, and so the story continues. Definitely divine timing at work, no doubt about it.
This has become an almost daily occurrence. Strap in because this will be a long post. One night Eve had a weird and esoteric dream. The premise was simple. This life is a simulation, keep reading, a eugenics program for the soul, either intentionally or unintentionally. This false reality is probably the demiurge's work, and everything that happens in it is designed to keep your soul locked in. You will reincarnate for as long as you have to. Once your soul either breaks free, will you be placed in your true plane of existence, might be non-physical. That's why you don't see many truly good people in Thea world. Their souls are freed completely upon death and they do not reincarnate. I wanted to test this dream, and the way I do it is I get into a focused state of mind where I'm physically present and running on autopilot, but my mind is in a sort of state which I can't fully put into words yet. I'm not daydreaming or even thinking about things pertaining to our physical reality even remotely. As if my mind is only thinking in and about metaphysical concepts and architecture. Almost the exact minute I make a conscious effort to place my mind into this state, weird things begin to happen. Random people begin to stare at me or try to interact with me. Usually it's attractive women. The way I interpret this is just the simulation trying to contain me within itself. This happens so consistently and always under the same mental state that it's hard to ignore. Usually when I'm mentally present and when my mind is preoccupied with this reality and trivial matters, none of this stuff happens. I've taken into consideration every single thing I could that would influence my environment and the way it responds to me. My physical appearance, body language, body odor, the way I'm dressed and where I look. This couldn't have been subconscious physical movement that people might pick up on. It always happens when my mind completely separates from the physical environment. People begin actively interacting with me even though I make sure to make myself unapproachable by both body language and behavior. Imagine nofap magnetism on steroids, that sort of thing. Sometimes I get lightheaded during the process and the effects magnify. I've gone as far as completely being unresponsive and ignoring people who try to interact with me, but several times even that wasn't enough. It's slightly unnerving.
How do I induce this state? I want people to talk to me. I'm lonely.
If I understood the dude correctly, when you achieve the state, you don't care about other people. I can attest to this. Life is like a cruel joke. When you need attention, you won't get it. But when you stop caring, like actually stop caring, you'll be showered with it. But since you don't care anymore, it annoys you. Something to note, you can't fake this. It has to be genuine internalized indifference. You cannot approach it by, if I stop caring then I attract people I want, or alright, I don't care anymore. But if something happens then I'll start to care again, which still has the hope attached to it. TLDR, when you get it, you don't even want it anymore.
Was reading this thread all last night. Real creepy shit. Couldn't even go piss without a fucking flashlight. Anyways, I wanna contribute. When I was 6, I'd visit my grandma quite often and spend the night most times. She lived in one of those smallish old folks apartments that has a kitchen connected to a living room with a doorway to one bedroom and one bathroom. I used to sleep in the living room, which was right next to these 3 windows that peered out into the backyard of the apartment complex. It was a nice quiet view. Anyways, one night I'm awoken by this extremely loud sound outside the window. It sounded like a 747 jet airliner was flying just above the fucking building, which made no sense because we never got air traffic around there and planes never fly that low to the ground. I jump off the couch and run to the window to see what's making that much noise and see a triangular craft flying straight over the building. I caught it just as it entered the backyard, so I saw the entire thing. Me being 6 and MW2 being popular at the time, I just figured it was a stealth bomber, so I never mentioned it to anyone. Looked like pickerel. Looking back, I have no idea what that could have actually been.
Here's my shitty short but true story I'll contribute. About 7 or 8 years old. Around 9/11 era. At school. Go out into the playground for lunch break. Get to the middle of the playground. Just casually glance up into the sky. See 3 gray-white discs flying in formation, one in front of the other 2. Look around to find someone to point it out to. Everyone's frozen. All the kids in the playground are frozen in time. But the discs keep moving slowly across the sky. Nope.jpg. Realize it's not an overactive imagination. These fucking UFOs are actually flying above the playground and all the kids and everything around me is frozen in time. By the time I had this thought, the 3 discs which I still had my eyes on had slowly made their way across the sky. Look around again. Everything's back to normal, kids playing, noise, everything. Try to explain it to people and no one believes me. Don't tell anyone this anymore so people don't think I'm insane. Also, for more details on the objects, they were simple gray or white discs of a considerable size flying rather high at a constant medium to low speed. They didn't have any visible windows and didn't make a noise, neither did they have any smoke or whatnot coming from them. Literally just 3 plain discs passing through the sky, which was mostly clear. They weren't clouds or a plane or anything like that, definitely real tangible objects just seemingly gliding across the sky. I can make sense of that even in an X-way, but what I don't understand is that time froze as they passed over and no one seemed to witness them besides me, in a playground full of kids.
Be me. Living in Nova for work. Drive to a local park to smoke a cigar. Park is empty, and spot is secluded. Take a piss behind perfect pissing tree. Smoke cigar and talk to my dad on the phone. 5 to 10 minute go by. Random stranger, seeming to be 50 to 60 y/O man approaches me from seemingly nowhere. Says,
I just ran 5 miles.
I just reply that's cool. He walks in the direction I took a piss. Think nothing of it. Another 10 minutes go by. Midway through my cigar now. Out of the corner of my eye I spot the stranger staring at me, standing halfway being the piss tree in some sort of idle stance. Obviously feeling threatened at this point, I gather my things and begin to head to my car, all the while keeping on topic with my dad's conversation, as not to cause alarm. Reach my car, and check the general direction of where I came from to ensure he isn't following me. Begging to reverse. MFW, he's in my fucking rear view now, just standing there. Switch that bitch into drive and haul ass out of there. Realize I kept my cigar lit the entire time. Called my brother shortly after the event occurred and he was quick to inform me that the smoke might have saved my life.
Been a few years since I've posted mine. First one. Be me. 2010 at the time. Metalhead in a major metropolitan area. Live in outlying suburb developing through old farmland. Parents out of town. Go to concert with metalhead buddy. Long drive has us a few miles from my place around 2 a.m. post-concert. Driving along in 90s shitbox, blaring death metal, jamming out. Road we're on cuts through fields, 0 streetlights, black abyss surrounding us except where shitty halogen bulbs illuminate. Suddenly, car goes dead. Literally nothing works, just dead. Panic, but manage to come to a stop without killing ourselves. Hop out, pop hood, using shitty potato phone to try to see what I'm doing. Buddy goes to back of the car to try to call for help with his phone. As I'm looking under the hood, I can hear him at the back of the car. Fiddling with shit, suddenly Buddy asks what's going on from right beside me. I explain that I'm retarded and don't know. Buddy then asks, from the back of the car, who the fuck I'm talking to. Look up, and see silhouette beside me. Look at back of car and can clearly see Buddy standing back there, presumably looking at me. Flip out and sprint into field screaming. After a while, we regroup at the car, jump in, lock the doors, and desperately fumble with keys trying to start it. Car starts with no problem. Speed home in silence. To this day, Buddy denies it ever happened. Second one. 2011, still me. Have developed a love of urban exploration. Decide I want to try to find actual haunted locations. After a few weeks, get a lead on an abandoned mental health facility. Con some friends into joining me to check it out. Get some gear together and head out to middle of nowhere. Have to do some minor off-roading to get around a gate, but eventually roll up on building. Brutalist, concrete structure that's completely overgrown and covered in graffiti. Make jokes and try to unnerve friends. Grab gear and start toward the entrance. Opening is busted open, but presumably used to be double doors with shatterproof glass surrounds. Have high-power flashlight for these outings. Turn it on and shine it into the foyer. Can see a receptionist desk sitting inside and hallways branching off. Leaves and shit all over the floor. No graffiti on the walls. I'm walking forward as I note this stuff. As I clear the last step and reach the doorway, I freeze involuntarily. Everything inside is screaming not to keep going. Primal fear sets in like I've only ever experienced once before, in the previous story. Friends keep playing grab-ass as they continue past me into the building. They stop when they realize I'm not following. They start calling me a pussy because of the look on my face. Mocking me because I brought them out there. I tell them they can go in if they want, but I'm leaving. They get mad at me, but I don't hesitate. One guy had to run to the car because I put it in gear and started driving away.
I wrote about this last year, I'll share once more. It happened when I was 12. I was at PE in school dribbling and shooting basketballs by myself in a large gymnasium with 20 plus other kids. I don't remember anything eventful happening there. The only thing I remember thinking when PE was over was what I would be eating for lunch. Next thing I remember was me going to the classroom and nobody being there. Only the teacher is there and she has a tray of food in her hand. She told me that I'm not eating at the lunchroom. I ask why. She responds with something to the effect of, "For what you did at PE." I didn't feel like pushing the issue, so I said nothing back. I spent the rest of the day in the principal's office. They told me that while I was at PE, I took a kid's finger and bent it in the complete opposite direction it was supposed to go. I told them it was an accident because I thought I would get in more trouble if I denied doing it because they would think I'm lying. They seemed very convinced, and I thought it would have been more likelier for them to believe it was an accident rather for them believe that I didn't do it. I was suspended for a week. Multiple kids said they saw me do it. I always brushed that off as just children parroting each other. I don't know what happened. My dad told me at the end of the school day that that kid had to go to the hospital. I never talked to that kid. I didn't even know the name of that kid prior to the incident.
They're either lying to you, or you blacked out the memory. Both are equally fucked. Fuck 'em though.